So like I could just imagine in '05, right? Like, hey ladies, my name's Tim. I enjoy long walks on the beach. I own a pet iguana named Greg. And my last relationship ended because I refused to share my Netflix password. Please, please, that sort of thing. But look, I don't care how good looking you are. Nobody looks good at staring into a webcam with 240p resolution.
Hey guys, we're back. It's Cowboy Mark and a guest that you've seen before. And this is BizUnLearned episode 13. 13. So we're actually moving along here. I know a couple episodes back I said we started this in April, but actually I had a beer and then I realized Mark and I started in April. We started the podcast in September.
Yeah.
So I've figured that out. Now, this episode is a little bit different, but it's still got a BizUnLearned theme to it, a very important one, an important one that has saved a lot of businesses and made them historic. And they started like this episode idea started like every other great episode. We were drinking. All great ideas start that way. We were drinking. And we were thinking about, how many damn businesses got started because some guy just wanted to get laid. We kept thinking about things like, the social network with, Facebook and everything. It kind of started out as a dating app. It didn't want to be a dating app, but ultimately it was a dating app. I mean, it really wasn't cut loose until someone went, well, hey, relationship status, is this person seeing anybody or not? And Mark Zuckerberg goes, hey, that's it. And he adds that to the profiles and he's like, okay, now it's ready to launch. But once he got relationship status in there, it got real. Okay? But, so many things started out as one thing and then became another. And so many of those, ultimately with, some really strange guys,
But in that Facebook example, Bill, do we know with Zuckerberg, and there was a few other guys involved, wasn't there?
Winklevoss.
When they did that, and it was faces, a book of faces. So there's the tip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were they doing that to set up a business at that point, or was it literally just tech that they could use for their own gratuitous reasons? So did they work that out on the fly, or was it a business idea?
Actually, it started with, what was it, Face Smash or Smash Face, one of those, Face Smash. And every fraternity had its own profile of pictures and everything like that. And Zuckerberg's a great tech guy, obviously, and had a fight with his girlfriend and was drinking and decided to go ahead and create this very impromptu, selection thing, which basically has turned into like Tinder or something. Do you like this one or that one? And he would throw up two different girls at a time. And I think he even compared them to barnyard animals too. And people started clicking back and forth. And there was so much traffic within like, not even 24 hours, like 18 hours. Okay. It shut down the Harvard network. Okay. And Zuckerberg ended up on academic suspension. And this was all because he had a fight with his girlfriend and was drinking.
So this one then, ultimately, from a business and a BizUnLearned point of view, presents as they were just doing something that they were capable of doing for their own reasons.
Yeah.
And then they were smart enough to see that relationship status piece. That almost becomes the catalyst. And then the rest is history, and it then grew into a business. Because that is where some businesses start from. But you've got to, it's the flexibility to kind of realize that we've got something here. So that's the bit. So many business owners, it's just their own idea, and they're going to spend 5 years trying to prove it and suck up all their money because they don't get any market evidence first. So there's the first learning point, really, isn't it?
Well, I mean, and he did have, it kind of came about haphazardly. A lot of things do. He started with this Face Smash, and then he ended up on academic probation, but he got a lot of notoriety from that. And then the Winklevoss twins had their own idea about a Harvard elite group, and where you had to have a Harvard email address in order to be into this system, and you had to be invited. And they approached Mark about doing it, and Mark really didn't do it. Did he get an idea for Facebook because of the Harvard project or not? That was the dispute with the lawsuit. So neither here nor there, but there were payouts involved, and Mark said that, of course, he never wrote code for them and didn't use any of their code and moved forward with his own thing. But history will be told by the victors, right? And so he moved forward with Facebook, and then ultimately Sean Parker, who had just miserably crashed and burned with Napster after being sued badly, very badly, found Mark and Facebook. And at that point, it was the Facebook. And Sean suggested Facebook. Then Sean was able to bring venture capitalists to the project because of his popularity with Napster and everything that had happened. He was able to reach out and touch people and bring people in, and which is why I think he still owns 7% of the company today.
So, Tim, when you two were discussing this, what was your favorite version of these pivot businesses or these fluke visit? If you had enough beer between you, you wouldn't have just stopped at Facebook.
Yeah. One key point to that story he missed too, so it must have been a lot of beer for him. Was I thought just before they launched it, the Brazilian guy behind Facebook, Eduardo was looking to get a girlfriend. It was looking to get a girlfriend, and Zuck just coded in there, single or not single, because he's trying to help his buddy out, right? So,
and he's like, "Hey, is she seeing somebody or not?" And he goes, and Mark was like, "Oh, that's it."
Helping a buddy out. I think that's important in business too, when you're starting your company, to listen to the crowd around you. Right?
Absolutely.
But this is a story I thought was funny. People might not think it's funny, and I didn't know this till after we were drinking and I started looking into other stories. It was actually the start of YouTube, which is wild. So in 2005, the three guys that started YouTube, Chad, Steve, and Jawed, I think the third guy's name is, he's like, hey, what if we made a website where people could upload videos of themselves looking for love? So they're trying to create this like Tinder, but with homework. So like I could just imagine in 2005, right? Like, hey ladies, my name's Tim. I enjoy long walks on the beach. I own a pet iguana named Greg. And my last relationship ended because I refused to share my Netflix password. Please, you know, that sort of thing. But look, I don't care how good looking you are. Nobody looks good at staring into a webcam with 240p resolution. So absolute failure. And so, surprise, guess what happened? Nobody uploaded the photos, zero, zip, nada. The site's just sitting there empty. And then this is what these guys at Silicon Valley's got like a weird starting out vibe to it. They're making a ton of money though. Maybe we're doing it wrong. And so they actually started to offer to pay women $20 to put up videos. And it still didn't work. If you have to bribe people to flirt, your idea might suck a little bit. Now, this is when I thought it got hilarious. One of the founders, Jawed Karim, his name is, he gets tired of waiting for people to post dating videos. So he just uploads a random clip of himself at the zoo. Right? And I was trying to find like info on it. I think the title of the video is me at the zoo, just standing in front of elephants saying, hey, these elephants are pretty cool. They have long trunks. And that's when they realize, wait, people just want to post random videos. Forget the dating. Let's just let people upload whatever they want. Boom, YouTube is born. $1 billion idea. So yeah, YouTube, was originally found for finding love, but instead it gave us 10-hour compilations of goats screaming and 4-minute videos explaining the entire history of the universe. Right? So honestly, I think they won.
That's kind of the key thing there, was the pivot. People see Facebook as social media now, prime social media. Although, I mean, many people would say they're falling off with people like TikTok coming on board and stuff like that. But Zuck went after it. He got Instagram. He did WhatsApp. He played poker online with Facebook and stuff like that. But that's not how it started. So he kept the evolution, but he did the pivot.
Well, as we've done Facebook, which was obviously more for a straight male audience, given, looking at girls' faces, let's just balance our views here and go to a different end of the market, which is called a male strip club, which was apparently a part of the market that wasn't served, that the Chippendales became huge on, but they were never started by the guy. He subsequently went to prison, didn't he? He tried to kill the business partner. That's how much he pivoted. But this thing started as a private members. I was just trying to look it up. It was something like Steve Banerjee was the original founder. And it started, he bought a failing bar called Destiny, and it was going to be like a private poker club, not a casino. No, what's the game? He thought there was going to be a club in the game that you have to, it's a real sort of Englishy type game. It bombed, it completely bombed. And somebody started saying about, well, there was no strip club for women. And the rest is history. But if you look into that story, I mean, I know it became a TV documentary, didn't it? And the partner, who was the choreographer, who was seen as very designy and very, spending money, but he actually took it on to other levels. So the partner, who was seen as high maintenance, he's the one that took it on the road and brought it to Europe. And so he's actually, Banerjee became very defensive about it and very, felt like he wasn't the star. And he was terrible when he was interviewed, where the choreographer one was really good at presenting and all of that kind of stuff and things. So that started as whatever that damn game is called, but it was going to be a private game club. Excuse me. That's what it was going to be. Well, talk about a pivot to get, and in those days, a male strip club. I mean, come on, talk about niche.
Well, if you like the team and you're satisfied with the talent, but you've ended up with the wrong product, the wrong solution. And we talk about this often in the success team, that a good way to decide what to put time and effort into from a project standpoint is to solve a problem. And the customers told you what the problem is. Now, a lot of people come up with ideas like Facebook and stuff like that just by drinking beer, no different than this fucking episode, okay? Just by drinking beer. And so it's not really well planned out, but a lot of these things have ended up wildly fucking successful, okay? But they all pivoted, even though they started from a bad beer drinking idea. And they knew they had the talent. They knew they had the people. They just needed to put the team and get it focused in the right direction on a project and get it done, and they did. And that might have started out as a drinking episode, but they got it done. Marriott was a very good example. Everyone knows Marriott for hotels. But it was a fucking A&W root beer franchise. A&W root beer franchise. They didn't even fucking create A&W. They were just a franchise. And then they saw that all these planes landed at the airport, and they're like, well, maybe we'll give root beer and meals to put it on the airplane, and we'll make money doing that. And then they're like, well, all these people who get off the fucking plane need a hotel. And they end up in hotels. And then eventually they were like, screw it, we're doing better with the hotels. Fuck everything else. But they liked the team, and the teams made the pivot and made it happen. That was the huge thing. Very huge.
I have to say something.
Sure.
I was trying to find the game that Mark was referring to.
Is it Mahjong?
And then I just deleted it. And then I just realized I have to delete
it was going to be a private backgammon club.
private back claiming club. Well, that's worth about $2,000 a month. Okay.
And they got about 9 customers. That's it. But when they made it into a male strip club, they had women queuing around the bloody block.
With backgammon board.
It's a pivot. That's a big pivot, isn't it?
You know what a big mistake I just made too? I was looking it up on a work server. Now I got to clear the browsing history. Oh man, that's.
So Tim, have you got personal examples in business of where you've had to pivot in this way, or where you just, were completely doing one thing, but the evidence said do it another way?
Oh yeah, Tim and I had several examples together.
I got one more story. Mark really took this from 0 to 100, so I'm going to try to keep up. Since we're on the topic of females, because we gave 2 male examples, the Victoria's Secret, the lingerie empire was. Yeah, I actually have an in-person example. I don't know how much I want to share about it.
I didn't mean to look as happy that you mentioned Victoria's Secret then, as I realized I looked far too happy when I went, oh yes, Victoria's Secret. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I shouldn't look that happy about it. Yeah.
So you ever try buying lingerie for your girlfriend or your wife and suddenly feel like you're in a crime scene? Or you just
my wife.
You walk into the store. You know, like getting in the store is difficult. You know, towards the lace section, then a sales lady pops up, then you just got to pull the ski mask over your head. So the story behind it, I found this out. I thought this was hilarious. The ending to the story is sad and terrible, but back in the 70s, this guy named Roy, he had the same problem, apparently. I think all dudes have that problem. Regular dude trying to buy something sexy for his wife. But every time you went into the store, he just felt like a total perv, right? So, and I was born in the 90s, so, I don't know what was going on in the 70s.
Yeah,
but I'm assuming
the whole 80s thing, dude. The 80s were cool.
I think the 70s, though, I'm visualizing like granny panties with something, medieval torture museum type stuff. So anyhow, this guy takes out a loan and starts Victoria's Secret, and he was actually trying to design it as a Victorian era gentleman's club. So trying to make those sales. And so anyhow, fast forward a bit, he sold the company to a guy for $1 million. And they changed it back to targeting women instead of men. And what ended up is a brutal ending, and it gets really dark. I don't know how dark we want to go here, but the guy ended up going bankrupt and jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. So Victoria's Secret is too shy to buy a bra. Well, men today are still too embarrassed, so they just get the gift card. So I think that's a bit of a pivot too for you there. I personally have been in this store even to this day. I feel like somebody should make that a little bit more comfortable. I guess direct to customers kind of solve that a bit more.
The UK's got famously one of our big stores called Marks and Spencer's, and it's changed now, but it was famous for you could take anything back. They would just anything you could just take it back, a bit like Neiman Marcus and stuff, and really exclusive. But it's middle of the range. But famously, we just had Valentine's, haven't we? And then at Christmas, there would be queues and queues of women taking all these undies back because the men had bought them and they're all black and they're all this and the women just want either going to get their money back or they're going to replace them for just basic undies. It's good quality stuff. And if nothing else, they knew in that bring it back policy that they still got more touches with the ultimate customer or the consumer with the woman. So they did that because people said to Marks and Spencer's, this is going to cost you fortunes. And it probably did, but it got them such a reputation with ultimately the women who wore the damn stuff. And they didn't want all the sexy stuff that their blokes got them, whatever. That's the funny bit. But the business bit is, hey, this bringing them back stuff works because they got more touches with the customer, the ultimate consumer customer, not the guy with his $50 going, hey, I'll have them and I'll have them and I'll have them. But it's still a niche, Tim. Nobody helps the men on this one deal with this problem.
All I can see is all these vibrators coming back and this woman going, it's just not getting the job done.
And the guy or girl in the return department having to deal with it.
Well, just tell me what you mean.
They don't fit. Here you go. Oh, gloves on.
But you wonder, don't you, that like today it feels like so many startups that they don't seem to get formed from really thinking through, I can solve this problem in the market, which is where an entrepreneur brain goes, which is why we call a lot of the modern businesses today enterprises, not entrepreneurs, because they almost did it because they didn't want a boss anymore. But they didn't have, I can solve that problem. So it wasn't the entrepreneurial redeploying underused assets, the classic entrepreneur. So you've got this completely different marketplace now where people are trying to form businesses around what they think are good ideas, but they've got no jargon, product market fit. They haven't been spoken to 50 people about, would you buy this if you could get them in green? It's almost like there's so many of these stories out there now that people haven't got a process to get through this part of forming a business.
Absolutely. I mean, and everybody loves these stories, and there's all kinds of stupid shit that happens, and of course we love it. But is that the best probability of success? No, it's not the best probability of success. Tim and I have been on many projects where we've ended up looking at each other after a meeting going, well, do we really want to fucking deal with these guys? Okay. I mean, are they actually ready for help? Okay. Where's the money coming from? Okay. Can we get the wheels back on the bus with these guys? And that's caused us to make some decisions on things that we look at, obviously. And at that point, Tim began even doing what he's doing now with the automation that he's putting in place. But all of that came from the stuff that we looked at beforehand and said, what the fuck? I mean, Tim, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll add some stuff on that. I like both your comments there. And one of the comments I'm thinking of too is like some of these ideas are just so ridiculous, but they're fundamental problems. And I think I talked about it on the first podcast, but the cost of inaction or just not doing something, even if the idea is ridiculous. And I mean, the idea of any of these concepts, guys not wanting to buy lingerie for their wife or significant other, like that's a problem that's always going to be around. What's your take on the solution? I've had this idea. I have it. It's a complete idea. I'm not promoting the idea. It's just an idea on the topic. I saw there's a Facebook ad that just hit me, in the last month. And some guy has built a chatbot, generative AI, to talk to women for him, right? And he's going and selling it. And I'm like, brilliant fucking idea. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you start going into other spectrums.
Pop up in the morning, it's like, hey, I'm interested. And he doesn't have to sit there in bed fucking 3 a.m. going.
Well, yeah. So like, but you started getting to ethics and morals questions, right? So that's probably why. Again, I'm not promoting this idea, but the ad he kind of took forth was, sick of just saying, hey, how are you? What's up? I'll pump out an AI that will scan their profile and give you something creative to say. And that's when you start to get into a whole nother discussion. So I think, but, hell of an idea. And the ability for this guy, I think a lot of people have thought about that. Or here's AI, when we were talking about, is always about business. And this is where the world gets even scary, is when it comes to a relationship standpoint. When do you start using AI to have to deal with, every day, oh, what'd you eat? How do you feel? Like those sorts of things. Well, let's just plug in the AI into it. So, try to weave back into it. I think the idea, though, that this guy that just started up, built an app quick or some sort of application to scan a profile and some AI agent is now working. I think that's what's going to be exciting to see in the future too. when companies are pivoting, how fast can you build something quick to try to vet the idea before you can, and like what Cowboy, what you were saying, when we're talking to companies, maybe we're wrong too. Maybe like the dumber the idea, the better the idea, or maybe the simpler dumber, simple stupid. They keep it simple stupid, the KISS formula. But these are just all kind of concepts to think about in the business of the future.
But what we got down to after we looked at ideas, what we got down to while we were having a couple of beers or something is like, do they have the fucking money to do the job? We brought it back to, boom, brass damn tacks. Can they do the project?
Sometimes when it comes down to the money, though, I don't know, I'd maybe challenge that statement a bit, because like whenever I hear an entrepreneur like money will fix this, I'm like, maybe you haven't thought that through the whole way. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some businesses you do need a large amount of capital for, but
Amazon's a
sometimes
prime example of that. They lost money for how many years beforehand? I mean, well, Facebook's a good example of that. That was the big argument between Eduardo Saverin and Mark Zuckerberg. Eduardo was the business major. He wanted to go for advertising right away. And Mark was like, Facebook's cool right now. Why fuck it up? Everybody wants to be in the group. Facebook's cool right now. It originally started as an invitation where you had to be invited to the group by somebody who was already in the group type of deal. It was the fraternity atmosphere, which is why the Winklevoss brothers ended up suing Mark Zuckerberg, because that's where they feel he stole their idea. And then Sean Parker was engaged, and our Brazilian co-founder Eduardo was like, when should we start making money with this? And he's like, well, it's cool right now. The amazing fucking thing to me was this was all pre-2008 .bomb era, 2001 .bomb era. And venture capitalists would invest in this shit that didn't make money. It didn't make money. In fact, when Facebook bought Instagram, they bought Instagram for $1 billion, and Instagram hadn't made one fucking dollar. I mean, that's a project.
This reminded me, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but this is another story. Do you know the story about the guys who started WhatsApp? So there's two dudes. Yeah, they applied for jobs at
Tim,
Facebook.
sorry?
WhatsApp. They started the messaging.
WhatsApp,
the messaging app. Yeah, I love WhatsApp. Everybody's always talking about it. You don't have iMessage, you don't have this. I'm like, what's wrong with WhatsApp? I can now video call on WhatsApp. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll do a podcast on there. But anyhow, these two engineers, they applied for jobs at Facebook and they got rejected. And so they decided, that's like hilarious that these two. No, but you were talking about ads. This is very crucial to the story of ads, right? So they decided to build their own thing. So they just wanted a simple ad-free messaging app. Who doesn't want that, right? Even YouTube's trying to go to more ads right now, and it's like,
sure,
I'm still not going to pay you YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here for the free browsing. They coded it at the coffee shop, and WhatsApp grew without ads, no gimmicks, just pure utility, right? 2014 almost was a 500 million users, I think it was. Facebook then has to go buy it for $19 billion.
They wouldn't fucking hire.
Yeah. But this is where it gets even crazier, right? I was just trying to look up the guy's name. I think it was Jan, the one WhatsApp guy. So they buy it for $19 billion. They start working at Facebook. And then Facebook says, we want to put ads onto it. And the guy fucking quits Facebook in protest over ads. He walked away from it was like $800 or $900 million too. He just walked away. He's like, you guys are idiots. This is why the whole thing became great. So sometimes rejection is the best thing that can happen to you.
Sure.
So but here's the thing. This is just a general discussion about WhatsApp, right? I was always thinking to myself, eventually you got to make money off of it, right? And so we don't see this in Canada, but this happened in Brazil. I haven't been to Brazil yet. I'll be there for the next COP conference next summer. But in Brazil, you can now pay businesses on WhatsApp, right? So now it's become like a payment processor. And the great thing about WhatsApp is The guy who walked away from Facebook, he lost almost $1 billion. He made a ton of money too, but he walked away before his contract had ended in protest over ads. Maybe has forced Facebook to say, wait a second, the guy who we rejected, then had to pay him $19 billion to get his app, who just lost $1 billion walking away. Maybe we should listen to this guy, right? Next thing you know, in Brazil, they must be charging a transaction fee off of this, right? So sometimes I wonder how much companies monitor that. I don't know. I don't really work with big enterprises like large, but I wonder if there's like a department that's like, hey, these people are pissed off about how our company's executing and leaving. Maybe we should talk to them, right? I don't know.
Well, I've seen this at a much smaller scale in Austin, Texas. Ryan Dice and Kathy or Karen, she's gone expat now. I can't remember her name at the moment, but Ryan, she came in to get a job at Ryan's company, and Ryan was doing about $30 million a year. And he's a pretty stand-up guy from Austin, Texas. He went to University of Texas and managed to build an internet business because he was trying to buy an engagement ring for his girlfriend, who did become his wife, and they're still married. Okay, and this girl came in there, and he was just freaked out by her hair. Now, anybody who doesn't know Austin, they got this whole theme about keep Austin weird, and he's like all fucking weird with her hair always. It's like purple or blue or what the fuck ever, okay? And he's like, oh my God. It's like, no way, I'm not hiring this woman, okay? And so she fucked off and started doing, social media postings for other people. And the next thing, she's created a job for herself where she's doing $100,000 a year. And then, of course, Ryan goes back and I actually knew both of them. I mean, I was in Austin, right? We'd go out to these digital events together. And, Ryan comes back and says, okay, all right, I want to hire you. And she's like, you can't afford me. He's like, fuck you. You didn't want to hire me when I needed a job. Now I don't need a job. So that's happened a lot too. In fact, the Mission Critical Group, which became Hewlett Packard, the Mission Critical Group at Hewlett Packard, that was a guy named Jimmy Trabick. He originally started a company called Tandem. He pimped the idea to Hewlett Packard, and Hewlett Packard was like, this is bullshit. And they blew him off, and he said, okay, well, screw you. He left. I mean, they can't sue him because he threw it to them first. He left, found his own money, went to Austin, Texas, and built this company called Tandem, which ended up with, being 86% of the world's telecommunication infrastructure, 3 out of every 4 credit card transactions, 100 of the world's largest stock exchanges, and the Pentagon and everything else. I mean, in fact, eBay originally turned down using these servers because they were way too fucking expensive. They went with Dell, and that was back in the early 2000s. They went with Dell. And the Dell servers crashed, and that was the day that eBay lost $1 billion in one day. They picked up the phone, they called up our group, and they said, okay, I don't give a fuck what it costs. How much? Bring them in. Because they now knew the cost of downtime. But he pitched the idea to Hewlett Packard and fucked off. Well, this, of course, pissed off Hewlett Packard. And so when the merger was happening, because Compaq bought Tandem and Digital, and all along they're absorbing our Mission Critical Group. But when the merger started to happen between Compaq and Hewlett Packard, the documents in the White Room said, we want the fucking crown jewel, and the crown jewel was the Mission Critical Group. The guy who left and fucked them off and ended up making billions of dollars, and Hewlett Packard lost out on it. And so they went after that just cutthroat style. And out of 162,000 employees worldwide, there was only 3,000 of us, but they went after that group something hard. And it was a very good example of we missed this opportunity.
You piece all these bits together, if you think about it, in in the Western world, and obviously the States is by far and away the biggest business environment, but it massively applies to the States and then Europe and blah blah blah. The biggest problem now isn't the startups are on what we call every bus stop. I mean, everybody's got a startup, but there's a huge drop off in about year 4, because what we don't get to is scale ups. UK PLC is something like pretty much 99% one-person businesses.
Mhm.
Now, if you look at that 99%, a lot of them want to stay one-owner businesses because they're those enterprises. They're not entrepreneurs. But there's a reasonable percentage in there if they can get through those next phases, because our problem now is, have they got to change their thinking, or have they got to team up in different ways, or have they got to, be like Levi Strauss, realize he's got this tent material, but nobody needed tents, but they did need heavy materials to go digging for gold in. And that becomes arguably the most famous pivot story of all time, doesn't it? Okay, let's make jeans out of them, and the rest is history. Spawned a whole bloody global industry out of this tent material.
I got to pause there for a second. There's a Texas little piece of this story, okay? There's rivets all over those damn jeans, these copper fucking rivets, okay? Well, there used to be one like right in the crotch of the damn thing, okay? Until there was a cowboy sitting too close to the fucking fire, okay? And that rivet got really damn hot, okay? So no more rivet in the crotch, okay?
So they had to pivot on that then.
Absolutely, okay? No more rivets on my balls. Okay?
The Levi Strauss story says one, doesn't it, about... The Levi Strauss one says the recognized resources and use that. That's a classic entrepreneurial story. But it's also the one about very few people made any money looking for gold. But the people that set up the hotels and sold them the booze and so all the resources to whether it was proven, it was clearly there, but nobody made much money out of it. Just like today's gold mine is making money out of all of these enterprises that can't run businesses, but other buggers, as we'd call them in the UK, they make the money because they're the good sales guys, and then the other ones are just hacking on. What's the unlearning point in this with a view to getting to that scale up stage? What have people got to do differently in order to get there from these different lessons?
Well, of course, I believe in mentorship, which is why we had the success team. You and I are talking about another program that we want to launch this year, get it going, which is going to be a big piece of that. But I'll tell you a real life story today. My girlfriend's lawyer with the government here, so she's got contracts that she cannot practice law since she's dealing with that. And I'm like, fuck that doesn't matter. And she's like, I don't understand why it doesn't matter. And I'm like, think about all of the people from Europe, North America, and everywhere else that are fed up with those countries that are moving here, like Tim and I did. They're coming here. They're going to need document translation services. They're going to need a lawyer's help to be able to get shit done. They're going to need an English-speaking realtor and know that they're not getting screwed over with the rental prices they're paying or things like that. They're going to need to know what towns they're going to be in. They're going to maybe need to know what schools to send their kids to. All of these services around this move, which were not concluded in her contract that forbids her from doing that type of thing, but she can clearly clue into, much like the finding gold thing. Well, we got places for you to stay, everything else. Fuck that. Do the support services. Now, is the average person going to know that? No, not without being educated on it, not without knowing the history, not without knowing these stories. They won't know that. But this is a perfect opportunity for her. I can't do it because I don't have all of those connections, but she's got them all day long. Okay? So that's a very big thing that people like us can teach and tell somebody about, because we've seen it, we've done it, we know what the story is. But even, we can show somebody how to leverage those types of things. But that's a definite BizUnLearned thing. She doesn't care if somebody comes down here, they end up getting fucking divorced, or they don't like it and go back home. But in the meantime, they're still going to need health insurance and everything else. Set them up. Make your money. If they decide to go back home, I don't care if you didn't find gold. End of story.
If you think about that from a business process point of view, you've just outlined that there is a growing market trend where people are coming to, from older established economies and saying, hey, there's new opportunities for whatever reasons. And that's creating new markets. So that's the piece where so many cases now where if you ask people for evidence as to why they're setting up in a particular business, they couldn't give you that case you just gave, Bill, because they didn't do any research. They just had an idea and then got attached to the idea, and then the blinders go on, and that's where they can't pivot or adapt.
Right. That's absolutely the case. That's absolutely.
They get attached to it, don't they? It's like you fall in love with the baby.
Sure. I don't think, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've ever really done that for a particular product or project. We've done that for a process. Okay. Project management and business analysis and being analytical about things. But a particular company or particular product or anything, I don't think we've ever been glued to that type of thing. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think process is always key, and that's one of the things I appreciate about being friends with Mark and yourself, Cowboy, is that sometimes it doesn't really matter. It does matter the idea. There can be bad ideas that don't have product or service market fit, but typically your idea is never going to get anywhere if you don't have the correct process. Right now, the process to success is worth more than the idea. I meet people all the time. They're making a killing on ideas left, right, and center. Just having the right process, right? That's pretty key. Another setback I find a lot, and this could be why some entrepreneurs fail, is because they're always scared about getting their idea out there. And, somebody's going to rip me off, or somebody's going to do this. And I've used this line before. I jacked it from,
I'm going to be rejected.
Yeah, and I jacked this line from you, Cowboy, so I'll tell you it again, but it always comes down to patents. Right. I got a fucking patent. I got a patent, and I think you told me years ago, it's like, only 1 or 2% of patents ever get to market, right? So I would say over half of entrepreneurs, they're just scared of not the failure, but they're scared of somebody taking their idea. But what they don't realize is the idea is 0.5% of the challenge. It's all about the process and the execution. And I think there's a lot of people out there that just need help on the process, right? Don't even tell us your idea. Just tell us, the market and learn the process of how to get it to market. Because the reality is, if you don't, the cost of inaction, if you actually don't move on it, you'll just die in the weeds. So
yeah, sure. Well, I mean, that's with us. We're doing podcasts. I get a blog, everything else. I mean, doing books. I don't know how many people might have fucking ripped off my shit by now. And you know what? I don't give a shit. Why? Because they probably read it and fuck it up anyhow and not know how to execute it. Not to mention, they're not going to keep evolving because you're never going to evolve if you just rip somebody off. It's just not going to happen because you don't truly understand what the fuck is going on, how to do it, how to go from this little acorn of an idea, which turned into a fucking podcast because we were drinking, and turn it and actually execute something. Okay.
Well, on that note, Bill, you better do the wrap up as we're over our time.
All right, so mom's on my ass. We gotta go. We'll get back to you.
Gotta go.
You guys know the deal. We're always trying to bring in new stuff. This one was a little different. Okay, we're always trying to bring you new stuff. But, you know, please like, comment, and share. We love the love. And remember, let's get her done this week. This is Cowboy.
Get it done.
All right. See ya tomorrow. Success team meeting.
You got it. Later.
See you later, guys.
Bye.